They laughed at him. A 19-year-old boy, no lawyer, no family, just a worn folder clutched to his chest. They said he didn't stand a chance. But when the judge told him to speak, he reached into that folder and changed everything. Marcus Hill was never supposed to make it this far. Born on the South Side, raised by a mother who worked double shifts cleaning offices nobody ever thanked her for. His father? Gone since Marcus was 8. Still, Marcus had one rule drilled into him by his mother's tired voice: do right even when nobody's watching. But in this world, nobody seemed to care what was right. Marcus worked nights as a janitor in a courthouse, the same place where judges handed out years like candy to people who looked just like him. And on one cold December evening, his life changed forever. Sound of rain. Footsteps echo in an empty hallway. He was sweeping the floor near Judge Whitman's office, a man known for his cold smile and quick sentences, when he heard raised voices. Marcus wasn't the type to eavesdrop, but when he heard his mother's name, he froze. Whitman, muffled voice behind the door, she'll lose that home whether she likes it or not. The bank wants it cleared before Christmas. My hands are clean. Marcus' heart stopped. His mother's house, the same one she'd spent 20 years paying off, was being stolen behind closed doors. He didn't know how or why, but he knew this, it wasn't right. The next morning, a foreclosure notice was taped to their door. His mother fainted on the porch. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground. They tried everything. Called the bank, the city, the legal aid office. Nobody listened. Nobody cared. Come back when you can afford a lawyer, they told him. But he couldn't. He was 19, working nights, barely scraping by. So when the court date came, Marcus showed up alone. Sound of murmurs as he enters the courtroom. He didn't have a lawyer. He didn't have fancy words. Just a gray hoodie under his janitor uniform, and that old folder he never let go of. The courtroom was already full. Neighbors, clerks, even Whitman's assistant smirking in the back row. They were sure it'd be over in minutes. Judge Whitman sat at the bench, eyes cold as marble. Whitman, Mr. Hill, I see you've decided to represent yourself. That's bold. Marcus, yes, Your Honor. Whitman, mocking, you understand the law, son? Marcus, I understand what's right. Laughter rippled through the room. Even the bailiff smirked. Whitman, well, let's not waste time. The evidence shows your mother defaulted. Marcus, interrupting, she didn't default, sir. The payment cleared. I've got the receipt. He held it up. His hand trembled. The judge frowned. Whitman, that's irrelevant. The property was already under bank review. Marcus, but that's not what your clerk said when she called. Whitman, enough. Silence. The gavel hit the wood. Everyone could feel the weight of power pressing down on one boy with no defense. But Marcus wasn't finished, because inside that folder was something nobody expected. He took a deep breath, reached in, and pulled out a letter, sealed with the golden crest of the United States. The courtroom gasped. Whitman, what is this? Marcus, a letter from the president's office. The room went still. Even Whitman leaned forward, confused. Whitman, you expect me to believe? Marcus, read it, sir. The bailiff carried it up. Whitman's eyes darted across the page, and the smirk slowly vanished from his face. The letter was signed by President Jameson Wright, the country's first black president in decades, a man known for his outreach programs to help low-income families fight unjust foreclosures. It turned out Marcus had written him a month earlier, not expecting an answer, just desperate. But the letter was real. Stamped, verified, and backed by a federal housing investigation, one that listed Judge Whitman's name under potential conflict of interest. The courtroom erupts in whispers. Whitman stammering, This doesn't concern this case, Marcus. It does, because you signed off on 38 foreclosures, and half of those homes went to the same developer who funded your campaign. Dead silence. Whitman's face turned pale. For the first time, the laughter stopped. Nobody smirked now. The teen they mocked had just cornered a judge. Marcus stood taller, his voice steady now. Marcus, you told me to understand the law. I did. And it says a judge can't profit from the suffering he signs off on. Whitman slammed his gavel. Whitman, out of order. Bailiff. But the bailiff hesitated. Even he had seen enough. Across the courtroom, someone whispered, He's right. Whitman's hand trembled. He looked like a man watching his own power slip away. Marcus, you wanted to take our home before Christmas. But you forgot something. Justice doesn't sleep just because you wear a robe. Before Whitman could respond, the door opened, and 2 federal agents walked in. "Agent, Judge Whitman? You're under federal review." Stepped down from the bench. Gasps filled the room. Whitman's face went blank. Marcus froze, realizing the president's letter hadn't just been a warning. It had set things in motion. Whitman, voice cracking. "You think this changes anything? He's just a janitor." "Agent, not today, sir." Whitman was escorted out of his own courtroom, and the boy they laughed at was the only one still standing. Marcus won that day. The foreclosure was dismissed. His mother's house safe. But it wasn't the victory that stuck with people. It was how he fought. With truth. With courage. And with nothing but faith that someone somewhere would listen. When reporters asked how a janitor got the president's attention, Marcus just smiled and said, "Sometimes you don't need power. You just need proof." Soft music rises. We see him walking out of the courthouse, folder in hand, the same rain falling, but this time it feels cleansing. We live in a world where power protects itself, where the rich sit high and the poor get crushed quietly. But every now and then, someone reminds them that truth has no price tag. Marcus Hill wasn't supposed to win, but he did because he refused to bow. He didn't just save his mother's home. He exposed the rot that was feeding on people like them for years. And yet, as he walked home that night, a dark SUV slowed beside him. The window rolled down, and a voice said quietly, "You shouldn't have done that, kid." The screen cuts to black. Music fades out. They thought it was over. But justice comes with enemies. And when Marcus opened his front door that night, he didn't find his mother waiting. Only a note, and an empty chair still rocking in the dark. A young man named Marcus Hill walked into court alone. No lawyer. No family. No chance, or so they thought. But when he pulled out that letter from the president, the courtroom fell silent. The judge who tried to steal his mother's home was exposed, and for a moment, it felt like justice had won. But justice has enemies, and power doesn't fall quietly. That night, as Marcus walked home through the rain, he didn't know his victory had just started a war. The street was quiet when Marcus reached his front door. Too quiet. He turned the knob, it creaked open. Inside, the lights flickered. The air felt wrong. "Marcus, Ma? You up?" No answer. Just the slow creak of the rocking chair, swaying by itself. On the kitchen table sat a folded note. Marcus's hands shook as he opened it. Note, handwritten, "You made powerful enemies, boy. Walk away before it's too late." And under it, a photograph. His mother, tied to a chair, blindfolded. That's when it hit him. This wasn't justice anymore. It was retaliation. Marcus called the police, trembling, barely able to breathe. But when they arrived, it wasn't the help he expected. 2 officers stepped out. One was young, nervous. The other, a man Marcus recognized. Sergeant Cole Bryant. The same officer who once dragged his cousin into jail for resisting. The same eyes that saw brown skin as a threat. "Bryant, you again. Guess you just love trouble, huh?" "Marcus, my mom's missing. Somebody took her." "Bryant, calm down, son. Let's not make this something it's not." He smirked. And for a split second, Marcus saw it, that same arrogance he saw in Judge Whitman. "Marcus, you're with them, aren't you?" Bryant, smirking, "Careful with your words, boy." The young officer beside him looked uneasy, but Bryant wrote down nothing. No photo. No note. Just a blank page in his report book. The next morning, Marcus went to the courthouse, hoping someone would help. But things had changed overnight. Whitman's office was sealed off, and whispers spread that his suspension was under quiet review. Inside the hallway, Marcus spotted Detective Maya Johnson, one of the few who'd spoken up against Whitman's pattern of corruption years ago. She was sharp, cautious, and tired, the kind of cop who'd seen too much but still cared. "Marcus, Detective Johnson? My mom's missing. I think it's connected to Judge Whitman." "Maya, slow down. What makes you say that?" "Marcus, because someone left me a photo. And a threat." He handed her the note. Her eyes narrowed as she read it. "Maya, this handwriting, I've seen it before." "Marcus, where?" "Maya, on an old case file, tied to a developer named Thomas Harper." Marcus froze. "Marcus, the same developer who took the homes Whitman signed off on?" "Maya, exactly." Detective Johnson started digging. Every file she opened told the same story, dozens of foreclosures, all pushed through Whitman's court, all sold to Harper's company for pennies. And behind Harper stood Alexander Rains, a billionaire real estate mogul with deep political ties. The same man funding half the city's revitalization projects, the ones that left families homeless. Narrator, slow, tense. It wasn't just a case anymore. It was a machine, and Marcus had just jammed the gears. That night, Marcus was walking home from the station when headlights appeared behind him. A black SUV again. It followed him for blocks, engine low, steady. He ducked into an alley, heart racing, gripping his phone. Before he could dial, the SUV sped up. He ran. Through puddles. Past trash bins. Down the narrow path behind his old high school. A door opened. Derek Miles, the cafe manager from his night job, stepped out. Derek? Marcus? What's going on? Marcus, panting, they're following me? Derek didn't ask questions. He pulled him inside, locked the door, and turned off the lights. Derek, who? Marcus, the same people who took my mom. Derek was one of the few who believed Marcus when nobody else did. He'd once worked for the city, until he quit after uncovering shady contracts involving Raines's companies. He poured Marcus a cup of coffee, his hands steady. Derek, you got the president's attention, kid. That makes you a target now. Marcus, so what do I do? Derek, you fight smarter. Not louder. He slid a flash drive across the table. Derek, this has the city's transfer records, every property Harper took. Including yours. Someone's been changing timestamps. Marcus stared at it. Proof. Real proof. Marcus, if we show this to the press, Derek, they'll bury it before sunrise. You need leverage. Someone bigger than them. Marcus remembered the letter, the one signed by President Jameson Wright. There had been a contact number at the bottom, a federal housing liaison. He called. No answer. He called again. Nothing. But at 3 a.m., his phone lit up. Mr. Hill, this is Special Advisor Lynn Carter from the President's Housing Task Force. We received your message. We need to meet, privately. Marcus, where? Lynn, City Hall. Basement parking level. 9 a.m. Derek looked uneasy. Derek, you sure it's legit? Marcus, if it's not, I guess I'll find out. Morning came gray and heavy with fog. Marcus walked into City Hall, the same place where the powerful shook hands and made deals that ruined lives. The parking level was nearly empty. A single car waited, tinted windows. He approached cautiously. The back door opened, and a woman stepped out, mid-40s, professional, wearing a black coat and ID badge. Lynn Carter. Lynn, you're brave, Mr. Hill. Most people disappear before making it this far. Marcus, where's my mom? Lynn, we're trying to locate her. But we need your cooperation first. Her tone was calm, too calm. Marcus hesitated. Marcus, you work for the president, right? Lynn, of course. She handed him a document. It looked official, federal seal, signatures, everything. Lynn, sign this and we can open a protection file for your mother. It'll help us act faster. Marcus looked down and noticed something. The signature at the bottom, President Wright's name, was slightly misspelled. Marcus, this isn't real. Lynn's expression changed. Cool. Sure. Lynn, you should have taken the deal, kid. Marcus ran, just as two men in suits stepped out from behind the pillars. He sprinted for the stairwell, clutching the flash drive in his pocket. Gunmetal footsteps echoed behind him. He burst into the lobby, weaving through workers and security guards. He could hear them shouting. Stop him. Marcus darted through the glass doors into daylight. Bullets cracked the marble behind him. He didn't stop running until he reached the old train yard on the edge of the city. He hid between rusted boxcars, catching his breath, hands shaking. He pulled out his phone and called Detective Johnson. Maya? Marcus? Where are you? Marcus, they tried to grab me. They had fake federal IDs. Maya, listen carefully, you can't go home. Harper's men are all over the city. You're in the middle of something big, something that reaches DC. Marcus froze. Marcus, you mean, this goes all the way up? Maya, higher than you think. She paused. Maya, I just found something. The developer Harper, he's not the real boss. He's just a front. Marcus, then who is? Maya, Alexander Raines. And guess who his main investor is? Maya, Chief Justice Evelyn Carter. Marcus went silent. The president's own sister. Marcus's world shattered. The very people who had helped him were tied to the ones who took everything from him. He met up with Detective Johnson that night in an abandoned warehouse. Derek was there too, holding the flash drive. Maya, if this is what I think it is, this could expose the whole network. Marcus, Then let's do it. Maya, we can't. Not yet. We need to connect it to Carter and Rains directly. Otherwise, it's just evidence with no teeth. Marcus clenched his fists. Marcus, they took my mom. I'm not waiting. Derek, you won't have to. I know someone inside Rains's company. Someone who owes me a favor. Maya nodded slowly. Maya, then we move tonight. They drove through the storm toward Rains' tower, a glass monument of money and power. Inside those walls were the files that could bring everything crashing down. Marcus stared at his reflection in the rain-slick window. He wasn't the scared kid from the courtroom anymore. He was the spark in a city built on silence. Marcus, whispering they wanted a war. Fine. Let's give them one. If this story touched you, don't just scroll. Because somewhere out there, another Marcus is fighting alone, and your voice might be the one that keeps him standing. This is Whispers of Crime, where truth meets pain and pain meets power.